Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another round of sound. This is the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown. I'm Bob Pompeani. As always, we have 30 outstanding minutes coming your way. A lot of topics. The #1 topic tonight will be the Pittsburgh Pirates. And oh, what a difference a week can make. And here to talk about it is a man who covers the Pirates on a daily basis, Jason Mackey from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. In the middle is Colin Dunlap from the Fan Morning Show. To his left, it's Chris Adamski, Tribune Review, Trib Live. Jason, what happened in a week? Last Sunday was 20-8. Now
reality set in, Bob. Reality.
So we're the real Pirates. Which are they?
It's somewhere in the middle. I know that's an unspectacular answer, but I mean 20-8. Everybody got ahead of themselves, right? Like they're not a 100-win team. Just settle down. They're also not as bad as they've been this past week. It's a long season. I do have some takeaways in that. I wish they were deeper. I think we're finding out that they're not as deep as they need to be, especially on the pitching end. Spend money on some veterans this offseason. I would like to see them maybe get something from those guys in this time. The young guys have a lot of developing to do, and they're just, you want to see them get better this season. And they were obviously punching above their weight for the first 28 games. They'll come back. It'll be okay, but it's ugly right now.
I don't know if it'll be okay. I think that you could ask for maybe to be a 500 team. The same problems now were the same problems going into the season. They just reared their head. The catching depth is ridiculous. They're not very good at catcher. The middle of the bullpen in totality outside of Holderman and Bednar isn't very good. The middle of the infield isn't good once O'Neal Cruz gets hurt, so there's that. And if young pitchers don't pitch better than they're supposed to, you don't have much of a baseball team. That's what we saw over the last 9 games or so, and that's where we are. The Pirates, especially in that run through Denver, they lucked out because they got length every night from their starters, seemingly. And once they stopped getting length from their starters and you had to get into the bullpen a little bit early, it was troublesome.
Well, they're also scoring a lot of runs, too. It covers it's the best deodorant you could possibly have. I mean, they're not hitting anything. No. So I can deal with some turbulence from the starters if you're scoring more than 1 run.
They scored 9 runs in 7 games, Chris Adamski.
Awful.
If you don't have clutch hits, you're not going to do anything.
Hey, they sent Drew Maggi down there. They went outscored 44,
That's it. That's
44-9
the
since
answer,
then,
Bob.
losing 7 in a row, and they sent him down. No, that's it. It's the old hidden vigor-ish and all that, whatever you want to say about finding your level. And they weren't going to keep the pace of 20-8, that's for sure. They're still in first place. They're still above where you would want them to be or anybody would reasonably would expect them to be at this point of the season, even accounting for the 7-game losing streak. Now, a lot of those things, I remember people saying way back 8 days ago that this was sustainable. Some people were arguing that. They would say, wow, we never expected this. Well, if you didn't expect that, that means you're probably not going to continue. That's a definition of not sustainable, right? It's not sustainable to think that now Vince Velasquez is injured right now, and you have some of those things coming up to play too. But some of those guys, I don't know. Like Jack Sawinski's a guy that I don't know what you have there. I don't know.
You have Dave Kingman, home run or not.
Yeah,
I mean, that's pretty much it.
And
right?
I guess if you have a lineup that can put a guy like that in there, he's still a valuable guy to have in the lineup. But it's one of those things where you got to ride out his slumps and if your lineup's not deep enough, it can really kill you for a week.
Colin, let me ask you this. This past week, we saw Derek Shelton sign an extension. A lot of people applauded it. Do you applaud it now? Do you think it was too soon? What do you think?
Had they not got off to the start they did, I don't think he would have had the extension. I would have waited until the All-Star game at the very least. I don't know what the hustle was. I don't know what the rush was. I don't hate it, but I don't love it. I could be swayed either way. When it happened, it wasn't a gigantic celebratory moment in terms of, wow, they definitely did the right thing. I think there's still a lot of meat left on the bone for him to figure out what kind of manager that he is. But all that being said, I guess, I kind of fall in the middle. I would have waited until at least the All-Star break.
The only thing I'll add to that, Pomp, is I don't think it was tied to their start. Like, I think people are going to link that and say, 20-8, they decided to extend the manager while things were good. No. I mean, I had been
hearing. They were 8-20, you think he would have got extended?
I do. Yeah, I do. I just think they don't let that get out. I think that they would have buried that and we would have found out.
Done before.
I mean, honestly, I had been hearing conversations about them like, a possible extension. This could happen. They want this to happen dating back to spring training. Like, Cherington is not making that up when he says that publicly. They want to keep this guy as the manager. Now, people can debate whether that's the right move or not. But I would argue we haven't had a chance to see if he's a good manager, as Colin said, because of the rosters.
Yeah, I don't know how you can dislike the move. I don't think he's done anything to disqualify. You could say the record, but I mean, come on.
But look at the rosters. Exactly. That's why you have the record.
So I don't think there's any reason you could sit here and say this is a terrible move to extend him. Now, the timing of it does look suspicious, and I don't know, the optics, I hate that word, at the time that it happened. And yes, if they were 8-20 instead of 20-8, that's an excellent point.
But they weren't.
Exactly, they weren't. Right. So I don't have a problem. I think he's been good overall. I thought even when they were 20-8 or 18-8 and all the way up there, he was keeping the even keel. He knew, maybe not this was coming, a whole week without a win, but he knew that there was going to be a downturn. He didn't want to look stupid by saying we've turned the corner here.
I wish he'd show some consistency in his lineup card, though. That's one thing that is baffling to me. That it's like Mike Sullivan. Mike Sullivan switches lines when one thing happens. You never get the same lineup card. And another thing, and I'll say, and part of it was this, like Friday night against the Toronto Blue Jays, is Brian Hayes down or is he not? He gives him a day off to start a series, but then he's a defensive sub in the 9th inning. Well, how do you start a series and not have your big dogs in? I don't get it. Then it puts you behind the 8 ball where they have to play day after night. That, to me, was very suspicious.
Chris, I want to ask you about something else this week that happened. Derek Shelton got into it, got ejected. We normally think of 2 or 3 a year of those kind of things, but he was adamant about the pitch strike zone, the pitch clock, whatever it was, but the umpires were very bad in that series. Do you think this will push up? On top of the fact that the pitch clock seems to be working, so make it easier to make another rule change. Will they make that change and go to electronic?
I mean, I think it's inevitable. From what I've heard whispers that it's coming up in the negotiations, and from what I understand, it's been clear with the players' union, and that's something they have to rubber stamp. I think it's an eventuality to happen. I'm surprised at kind of the boldness of how you could say how bad it was maybe in that series, those couple of games, the boldness and the outwardness of it. And we haven't heard, to my knowledge, any about fines or anything from the league. I don't think, which is
they're not wrong. They shouldn't be fined. They're not wrong.
Maybe that's it. But I mean, this is something. If it's only natural now. The arguments against it for a long time were baseball is a human element, all this, and the no clock and all that. But if you're doing all this anyway, you might as well. I mean, the tennis, they've done it for, 2 decades now or more. And it works fine, and nobody ever complains about it. I think it has to happen.
I think the system you're going to see, honestly, is what they put in the Arizona Fall League pump, where you basically have a human being calling it, but the player, I think even the manager, has the ability to object to it. Like, if forget you like raise your hand or something,
So
you may like
what's the
challenge.
point then? If you're going to challenge,
Because you can challenge atrocious calls like that. Like
Yeah,
if you're
but
Connor
how
Joe
about
against
if
the
you
Rays.
saw that many in Tampa Bay, how many can you challenge?
I mean, you'd have to develop the parameters of that. But I'm saying when you have a call that's that bad, you can challenge it in that moment. And if you're right, you keep going.
Robots don't have feelings. That's the main reason I want to get the umpires off the field. You saw a grudge carry over for a whole series, and you're looking for somebody. Then the guy's peering into the dugout at Donnie Kelly, who is, if you have a problem with Donnie Kelly, the problem's yours. He's like the nicest man in America. That happens.
He was going like this.
And the other thing about it, too, though, Buzz, is this. Who cares what the players' union thinks? The players' union didn't want the clock, and that got put in.
Yeah.
They voted it down the first time.
Yeah.
Manfred's
got clout with these rules the way they went in. And I don't think the players' union's against it. I think they're just probably, the way they work, they're going to want something for it.
They're going to leverage it and try to use it in negotiations.
I think it's coming, and it may be here sooner than you think. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to shift over to the Pittsburgh Steelers. A lot of experts are weighing in on, number one, Kenny Pickett, but also where the Steelers stack up now in the AFC North. Now that Lamar Jackson is signed, sealed, and delivered. We'll talk about that next right here on the number one Cochran Sports Showdown.
Number one Cochran Sports Showdown is brought to you by Number One Cochran. Go one better.